let me share my screen. Oops. Okay. I don't seem to be able to share, so there's a bug with, okay, yeah. All right, here we go. Something similar happened last week, but this time I am prepared and wish to warmly welcome you to the week 5 discussion group. Next week is going to be the last week for this amazing course. Today's the 14th of November. And just to remind you the ground rules and to ask you to show that you are alive, as Savatri has and Alex have just done by typing in the city and country that you are connecting from into the chat window. So please go ahead and do that. So we have Kamwan Laos, Alex from New York City in the US, Yaoundé, Cameroon, for Ethiopia, Hyderabad, India, Austin, Texas. Go ahead, don't be shy. And from Sarajevo, from Lahore, Lagos, Lusaka, Mongolia, Saudi Arabia, Gaza, Palestine, Tajikistan. Wonderful. All right, it's always heartening to see people connected from all over the world. And just to give you, I've shared this in the WhatsApp group, and for the early birds who join the session early, always appreciate that, and it's a good chance to chat informally if you're able to join the session beforehand. If you're short on time, then really just focus on the mandatory time, which is now. So the community review, we're going to ask you, and this session will have even more time than we have in previous weeks dedicated to your presentations. What we'd like to ask you to do is to show or create a project that you've been assigned to review, summarize what the author has laid out in their project, explain how you're preparing your feedback, and then if you have questions or dilemmas, or if you found something challenging about peer reviewing this work, then you may ask your colleagues for help. And then really we'll ask you to show one criterion. Could be any of the ones for the project. Show your rating and explain it, and then that's when, from the community side, when the presenter shows the rating they've assigned, you get to assign the rating that you think would be appropriate, and then we'll call for volunteers to explain the rating that they give, especially if it's different from the one that the peer reviewer has given, and we can discuss that. So you are encouraged to type questions and comments into the chat window during the presentation, and you, all of you know about the raise hand feature now. If you'd like for us to open up the microphone for you. All right. So discussion group agenda for week 5 is very simple. We're nearing the end of the course, but next week is actually the critical week in terms of putting together your project. So this is the agenda, and here is a reminder of the schedule overview. So we've been going through these 2 weeks in which the community has gone quiet because everyone is working behind the scenes anonymously peer reviewing 3 works. So I want to emphasize again that you are, in order to be able to complete the course in week 6, you are going to be dependent on feedback from your colleagues, and they are going to be dependent on you. So that is just what is a big responsibility in the course, is that your colleagues are going to be dependent on you. If you do not complete your peer reviews, you're leaving gaps in the feedback that they're going to receive. Now, this was the original deadline, which is this Friday, and I do have another announcement to make, as we did for the creator projects. Before I get to that, I want to lay out the situation and what has led us to this announcement. So, in week 6, you're going to receive the feedback from your colleagues, and your task will be to make substantive changes to your plan. And we'll be looking at in the analytics whether you've just changed a comma here and a hyphen there and submitted a final plan, or whether you've actually made a concerted effort to use the inputs you've received, to use what you've been learning through the course to finalize your project. It's the latter, obviously, that we're looking for. and it will be due next Friday. Now we have 55 people who have submitted projects, which means we need 165 peer reviews in all, with each person doing and receiving 3 reviews. Right now, actually as of yesterday afternoon, we only had 49 peer reviews that have been submitted. So as you can see, between now, Tuesday, and the original deadline was Friday, there's quite a bit of work that's going to have to happen. Consequently, I'm pleased to announce that we are extending the deadline until Sunday evening. That's 10 p.m. Geneva. You can check the time or use the website time.is to actually figure out what the time is in your location. So you do have a little bit of extra time, but nevertheless, I'd like to encourage all of you to, rather than wait until the weekend, if you can at least do some of the preparation for the peer review. So read the projects you've been assigned, review the rubric, review the GRISP guideline, consider some of the videos and from the subject matter experts that we've shared with the course, and who've shared some of the innovations and some of the new ideas, some of the fresh ideas and approaches from WHO. And remember that when you click the submit button for a peer review, it is final. Also, there are a few people who are still working on their project, so if they submit, that will trigger additional review requests. So if you receive an additional review request, it comes late, and you're not able to do it just because you're short on time and you know that's not going to be possible for you, let us know so that we can assign someone else. That's really important. And then use the rubric. You've seen you use the rubric to develop your project. So you should refer to that. That's the standard that you're using to review the creator projects you've been assigned. You do need, we've had many people send messages, I can't submit my peer review, what's wrong? So if you watch the video tutorials, you know that you need at least one annotation. So that annotation is just like a comment in Word where you select a bit of text and then you add a comment to it. So you need at least one of those, or else you will not be able to submit your project. The other reason people are unable to submit typically is that they give 1 or 2 word explanations for a rating, such as good job or needs improvement. You will not be able to submit your peer reviews unless they include substantive explanations. So that's a really important part of what you have been doing for the last 10 days now. And we do give you quite a bit of time for peer review, so that you can use that time to think about the advice you can give to your colleagues to help them improve. So that includes sharing your own experience, sharing references from the literature, suggesting resources that may be helpful from the author. And if you find something where, in order to make it, to make the determination to you more usefully advise, you need additional information from the author, you can say so, because in the final stage next week, as soon, or actually Saturday, when the peer reviews are released, you will see that each peer review comment has a comment box so that you can write back to your peer reviewer and engage in further dialogue. So that's next week is actually a very much a critical part of the course in that respect. You'll be required to consider the inputs you've received, to make substantive changes to the final version of your project that you'll submit for the course. And then you'll also be able to share your feedback on feedback. So the feedback to your peer reviewers, whether that's asking them for additional information. It's not about contentiously taking up disagreeing with your reviewers, but it's about embracing the input and the feedback they've given you and trying to make sense of it, so that you can, and trying to ensure that it's useful, that you can actually apply it to improving your project. So now on to community review, and I laid out the ground rules so that some of you could compose your thoughts and decide whether you feel ready to step up and present. We did not send out a request for volunteer presenters. By now you should be familiar with the process and be ready to do so. And I see Khalid Abubakar has a hand raised, so Khalid, let me unmute you. And how are you doing this afternoon? Remind us where you're connecting from, please.
Good afternoon, Rita. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
Yes,
are you clear?
Yes, loud and clear.
So I'm Dr. Khalid from Nigeria.
Welcome, Dr. Khalid.
Thank you very much, sir. So I would like to actually present the review I've done.
Yeah.
Can I share my screen?
Yes, indeed. I've just given you presenter rights, so you should you need to confirm. Yes, that's perfect. Yeah.
So based on the guide given for us to actually refine and update the peer review, I was able to actually focus on the Somalian transformative investment, which was actually strategy to actually reach unvaccinated and underserved. And actually they started with justification, followed by the description of the prioritization, then later on prioritized, then the activity plan. So based on that, I have actually made some observations, and from my rubric area, I think you can see my review work. First of all, there was actually information given regarding the routine immunization status of Somalia, and there was actually lack of government and strong partners, which shows there was health system collapse. And then actually he was able to give the coverage which is below 90%. So out of this, my general format, I was able to score 2 for the work. Based on that, the format and presentation required some editing. And these are some of my explanation on how to actually improve. I want to suggest if you can give clear description of the country RI status and some information mentioned while justifying the choice of your priorities. Actually, while the Somalian transfer investment was mentioned in the priorities, it mentioned vital information like maybe natural and man-made disasters, which should actually be captured in the description. And actually, it has to be clearly highlighted in the description. Then the coverage over 2 decades actually is vague. We need to be specific and we need to know exactly what is the coverage presently, because he just gave us that the coverage is below 90%. Then the prioritization also need to come first before the explanation. Basically, we need to actually rearrange the prioritization. So I suggest rearrangement in this due to the fact that we need to prioritize first before you explain. Based on this, justification came before this. No, there's no description. Then justification came. Then later on, he just started explaining the priorities without actually mentioning them until later on. So I think we need to rearrangement in this area. Then I went on to the next part, which is justification. In the justification, I scored 2 because there is need for minimal addition. So in the description, these are my suggestions. Description should clearly indicate the data source of the country RI platform, because we don't know what exactly is the situation in Somalia now. And any form of assessment, like if there is any survey to show us actually the underserved and marginalized people, so as to know that he has data as backup for him to make that justification and choice of the transfer investment. Then you can also go ahead and give source of data at the subnational level to indicate the extent or the variation of this coverage, so as to know clear justification of the choice. So this is for the justification. That's the comment I made on that one. Then when we come to the planning of activities, okay, in the prioritization, actually, since we are focusing on underserved and underimmunized, he made choice of actually detecting and serving unreached and marginalized population, update of microplan, and then apply periodic intensification of routine immunization. So my own actually input, I scored 2 because there is need for, I want to actually ensure that, first of all, we need to know exactly what are the issue, how can we identify or reason for under-vaccinated, which is part of the GRISP strategy. I actually cut it out for him to actually, if he can change the strategy 1 with this, identifying and examine the reason for unvaccinated and under-vaccinated population. This is actually very good if he can choose this one instead of detecting and serving, because we need to find out the reason for this underserved. Then actually he can actually give us reason, and then the root cause analysis for it. It can help us to give the reason why and how, and possible solution of how to reach these marginalized people. Then on the activities, actually it was actually well done. I just focus on part of it, which I just want if he can focus on it. For the first part, I just want, don't you think that strategy A and B you have stated in second activity, because in the activity it has been mentioned that the activity 2, to develop very detailed macro plan and to ensure that, that's the second point, that every pocket of country has included in the macro plan. So my suggestion to me, I'm thinking they are all the same. As far as you update macro plan, you are going to include each and every one. So don't you think the point 1 and 2 you stated in the second activity are the same? To develop very detailed macro plan to ensure that every pocket, I think these are the same. So kindly consider system of tracking transit population. He has already mentioned that they're actually having some nomads. He didn't actually capture it in this his activities. We need to ensure that the nomads and other underserved IDPs, the strategies on how to reach them. Then to conduct outreach campaign based on quarterly basis. I think he mentioned this one, that they should actually...
You are out of time, Doctor. Please conclude.
Let me round off. So I just want him to actually ensure that conducting outreach on a quarterly basis is not actually going to help because of the workload and the challenge we are having. We need to emphasize on that. Then on the monitoring and evaluation, conduct supportive supervision is a good option, but why at the central level? He mentioned it during the monitoring evaluation, and while on the job training could be done just to supervise addressing the gap, which are on quarterly basis, is too long. We need to ensure that, but he rightly mentioned ODK. Then on the annotations, this is how far I've gone. The annotation points, he mentioned that excellent strategy for hard-to-reach communities, including nomad, pastorized, IDPs, and security areas. So my own suggestion is, do you have any data which is not there, and it can help to enrich your description? Then another annotation is on the strategy. Rethink of the idea why, to identify the reason for unvaccinated and undervaccinated. I have made that suggestion if you can change. Then another one, for last 2 decades, the country has faced lack of strong, if you can think of maybe invest in the capacity of the national team. Since for 2 decades, the country has faced lack of strong government and health. If you can change, at least it can help. That's what I'm thinking, despite the underserved. Then for prioritization, if you can list a prioritization before explanation of the prioritization. This is so far the review I have done on the Somalian work. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. We are over time, but I know also, Dr. Khalid, that you have been wanting to present, and I think we had technical issues at least twice. So I'm very glad that you were able to do so today. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm now going to turn to Alexandra Karik. Alexandra, how are you doing this afternoon? Connecting from WHO.
Very well, thank you. I'm happy to be with you. Can you hear me clear?
Loud and clear.
Thank you. You, I assume, would like me to comment on the peer review?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I have to thank Dr. Khalid for the thorough explanation. I think he gave really very, very good and thorough peer review, and our Somalian colleague will certainly benefit from it. It also carries the thought forward from our last group discussion, when we emphasized that whoever is reading needn't be aware of the data in your country. Therefore, more precision is needed. The clarity of data and the source of data is extremely important, so that whoever is reviewing can judge whether the priorities and whether your strategies that you are focusing on are going into the right direction. I particularly agree with the comment on strategy suggestion in the activity plan. Of course, before you start anything, I think it's important to identify reasons and make a good root cause analysis. It is something that is often forgotten, often assumed that we know what the status is. However, there is methodology out there. There are studies, or the ways the studies can be done to have an adequate situation analysis that I think can be taken into consideration, or should be taken into consideration first, before devising any other strategies. Of course, we have to be cognizant that the realities in different countries are different, and what works in I don't know, Switzerland does not work in Somalia. So when you say this is my strategy, it is always good to explain why you choose that one over the other one. A minor disagreement, however, with the point 2, micro-planning, that Dr. Khalid assumed that, or thought that these were the two identical issues, detailed micro-planning and ensure that each area has it. I think that it's maybe in the language, that it can be maybe in the language better distinguished, because I find it different. We have seen micro-plans that are not very detailed. You can have each area with a microplan, but if that microplan is not detailed, it's not going to do you any good. So I think that can actually stay as it is, maybe just refining the language a little bit. However, having said that, I do commend Dr. Khalid for a very thorough and very good review that our candidate will certainly benefit from. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. All right, and as for all of the participants listening to this, in addition to addressing the peer review at hand, think about how you've been putting together your peer reviews so far. Also think about how you would feel receiving such comments. Will they actually be helpful to you? Are there more diplomatic ways to make the same suggestions that could actually be more effective? Is there sort of sensitivity that you are showing as peer reviewers to recognizing the work and the efforts of your colleague in putting together a project? Again, as we work through this peer review process, let's also be thinking about what we can take back when we go back to finish the peer reviews that many of you have to finish. I have asked but have not received a reply, and I have asked Pergath and Suleiman. So if you could look, if you two gentlemen could look in the chat window, you both have your hands raised. And I'd like to know, I just asked you if you want to make a comment about this to the peer reviewer, or if you would like our volunteering to be, okay, so Pergath, you wish to present your review, that's great. And Suleiman? All right, let's go with, all right, Suleiman has not answered. Yeah, great. So, Pergath, yes, I need to unmute you. That's done. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you all?
Very well. If others want to answer in the chat. If there's a way for you to speak louder or closer to your microphone or both, or to check your microphone input to increase the input level, I think it's, and I do want to point out before we, Pragath, before we give you center stage, that there have been quite a few comments from fellow participants, from Calvin saying, thank you, Dr. Khalid, this was wonderful. And Pascal Bagbulo saying nice work, Adamu Ibrahim well done. So a lot of appreciation for, oh, and Mimi Lamu Mainak saying thank you, doctor, nicely done. So yeah, and from Aliou, Dr. Khalid, that was very good. I hope the author takes notes. So of course, and for the author, if you are in the room, again, we are breaking a bit with the anonymous peer review. I hope that's okay and that there's a level of trust and the confidence we have in each other that is sufficient. And of course, these suggestions, as you can see, are quite clearly constructive. So I'm receiving a question for the second community review on Nigeria. No, we're not doing that kind of community review. There are enough participants who are far along enough with their peer reviews so that we can actually focus on having those individual reviews. Pragath, what I will ask you in addition is if you can, one, speak very loudly, because I think your microphone is a bit low, and second, in order for everyone to participate, if you can select one of the criteria as you present them, if you can stop for the one that you think where you would like other inputs from your colleagues, and then we'll have everyone type the rating they would give, and then call on a couple of people to explain why they would give a different rating from the one you have assigned. Is that clear for everybody? Okay, so Wajid, to enlarge the screen, you just grab the bottom right with your mouse, click, and then you should be able to enlarge the screen yourself. It is showing at 100% at an adequate size on my screen. So Pragath, over to you. I'm starting the timer now.
Yeah, thank you. I will speak a little bit louder, and I'm very much near to my earphones, so I think I am audible now.
Yes, loud and clear. That's perfect.
Okay, thank you. So the country I have reviewed was of Somalia. The general format and presentation I have given 3 out of 4. The author has very well put the justification in terms of Somalia, and the author has identified the transformative investment, which is to identify under-vaccinated children and where they are getting missed. So I have given 3 out of 4, but one concern for me was most of the times the author has used long sentences without any punctuation marks. So that was creating a little bit, confusion to understand what the author was trying to say. And then during the general format review, the author has given, the references here, one here, and then the third one here. And I'm not able to, directly go to the link where he has posted the 3 references here. Even if I want to look what are these attachments, I'm not able to go. So my suggestion for the author is if he can hyperlink the link wherever it is needed. So that would be very easy for the reviewer or anyone to just go to that link easily. And for the justification of the transformative investment, he has clearly mentioned the strategies which he has chosen. One thing I will show them in the annotations also. And then prioritization of the strategies, he has identified 2 issues. One is there is a lack of micro plan, which he has mentioned it here, that there are no functional micro plans. And the second one is he doesn't have the data which shows that there are large number of unvaccinated and under-vaccinated children, where they are from and who they are. So except for these 2 which he has mentioned in the justification, he has chosen other strategies. So the first strategy he has chosen was for prioritize services to reach the largest number of unvaccinated. Second one is revitalize and provide adequate resources for outreach services. And the third one is enable and harmonize routine immunization. So when he was mentioning two important strategies in the justification, he was not following them to prioritize in the prioritization. That is why I have given 2 out of 4. I mean, that is up to the author. And the third one, activity planning, I have given 2 out of 4. Because he was mentioning preparation of microplan, he did not mention anything, he or she, sorry, did not mention anything about how the budget will be allocated for the microplanning process and how to identify the unvaccinated or under-vaccinated and how to reach them. So those are all budget related. So I think considering the financial planning will also help. Now, why the routine immunization strategies which were earlier chosen have not worked well in Somalia? I would like to know that, and if the author can mention those strategies or those activities, why they have not worked, and how best they can be delivered again, it will improve the the work. And for monitoring and evaluation, again, he has mentioned every aspect here in the monitoring and evaluation, but he or she has missed how the internally displaced persons can be focused more. So that is the reason why I have given 2 out of 4 in the ratings. Coming to annotations, the first one is I'm new to this IDPs, internally displaced persons. I have to Google it. So if he can mention in the first part, it would have been good for the reviewer. The second one is vaccine coverage in Somalia is one of the lowest in the world. So a link to that will help a lot, where he has find that. Third one is these three references, if they can be added at the end of the statement, and hyperlink will be easier for the reviewer or anyone. Now he says that only 291 out of 785 public health facilities are providing RI, and most of these health facilities are located in urban areas. So I want to know, is that official figure? If that is official figure, why only 291 were giving RI services out of 785? What has been done to them? Sorry, it's okay. I will just close this. And he says that there are large number of vaccinated and unvaccinated children are there. There is data available for this statement in the Gavi HSS document, which he has given reference here. So he could just post the number or the percentage about how many children were being missed. And he says that updated microplans to ensure coverage. Why this strategy is not prioritized in line with the justification of lack of EPI microplans in Somalia? That is my another annotation. And although the quality of private, sorry?
Doctor, you are also out of time, so please conclude. We try to be generous to make sure that you can give a good overview, but staying on time is a key consideration.
Okay. So my summary for this author is to be in line with what justifications were made, and those can be made as priorities, and then activity planning can be done in line with the justification. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So quite a few comments in the chat. From Alexandra, and we'll be going to her for feedback. Sometimes the data belongs to the country and you cannot share the links. Adamu Ibrahim says, well done, Pragath. Endwani Cornelius actually says, well done, Dr. Khalid, for the excellent presentation. Mohammed Miro Salim, good going, Pragath. Samuel Roches, well done. Al, you actually has a comment. I don't understand when you say the author did not feature the budget for the activity planning. Can you explain again? He then adds that he's in agreement with the scores you gave, and other comments are definitely valid, and that he urges the author to take note. So Pragath, would you like to respond to that question when you say why did you say the author did not feature the budget for the activity planning?
Yes, microplans are in India. Microplans are made twice a year. So the vaccinators will do house-to-house survey and then identify the children who are vaccinated and unvaccinated. This involves a lot of time and also paperwork needed, marking of the houses and all that things are done. So that involves budget. So I just want to know, to prepare a micro plan, what is the budget being released by the government and what is being utilized at the same time? So that was my suggestion to the author.
Okay, thank you. And then Dr. Khalid says tracking of transit population like nomad and special population, so internally displaced, for example, there's need for a specific plan to reach them. And he also says, I appreciate the referencing, but he wants to ask me if we can follow the same referencing format. So it is, keeping in mind Alexandra's comments that in some cases the country data may not be shareable, those links may not be shareable, but if you are able to share, a hypertext link is better than a journal style footnote. The link will allow your peer reviewer to actually find the resource directly without having to do a literature search or what have you. So that would be my suggestion. And Aliu says the budget should not feature in the micro plan, I think. And then Dr. Khalid also says really house-to-house enumeration can be used and cost-effective. Raghavendra Patel Chitimela, utilization of budget for microplanning is very tricky to get national level and also difficult to get. And while I'm reading these for people who will be viewing the video recording, they won't be able to see the chat window. If we could have another volunteer, if you'd like to raise your hand before we go to Alexandra Karik for her feedback. Aliu says the author just needs to state how the activity will be implemented from the national level down to the health facility level. May be wrong, but that's what I think. So let's now go to Alexandra. What would be?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, please. What would be your feedback, suggestions, advice, recommendations, both for the peer reviewer and the author?
Yes, another excellent peer review, I have to say, straight to the target. I would just like to take this opportunity to make a couple of comments that may be useful when you are writing your essays. As I mentioned regarding the references, CMYP, I'm not sure that is something that is publicly available, and in particular not material from the Gavi applications to Gavi. These are all pretty much confidential materials that it is not easy to access. So I think that just needs to be explained in the text. Another thing that our reviewer has excellently pointed out, and that is the fact that all countries do surveillance to a different quality level, but they pretty much all do. So you have a lot of data in your country, and I often see amidst very simple time, person, place analysis. You can do that with the data that you have. It may be more or less soft information that you get out of it, but time, person, place is really something that you have to do, easy to do. And do not forget vaccination status of those. For example, if we have measles cases, what is their vaccination status? And because that will guide your strategies, that will tell you where your issues are, whether it is not reaching your population, whether it is, for example, the cold chain issue, and that will determine which way you will act. Another thing, a budget, very important to say, because we have often seen, for example, if you create your budget for the campaign and you do not put in your budget, you don't budget for the post-campaign coverage survey, it will not happen. So what is not budgeted will not happen. Therefore, budget is extremely important to have in your work. Additional thing that I would like to underline is links that you can make between your routine immunization programs and, for example, campaigns that in many of these countries are ongoing, or other projects. For example, if you have a recent campaign, being it measles or MNA or whichever one, you will certainly have some updated microplans for your campaign. Use that information for your for updating your microplans in your routine immunization spots. I think it is very important to be aware that these links can be made, because routine, good performance of routine immunization is what we are after all. So whatever you can use, it is good to strengthen your routine immunization performance. Again, a very good review. I'm really pleased what I'm hearing. Thank you. Over.
Thank you, Alexandra. So we have more comments. So from Bashir Ahmed, Somalia's pastoralist community and religious leaders' involvement is very crucial. From Alex Ajagba, who says country documents are all available on the Gavi website, and from his perspective is that CMYP should not be confidential at all, so check the Gavi website first. Samuel Roches, so Samuel, we've all done this in trying to help out. The link to join the GoTo training session is actually personal. So he shared it on the WhatsApp group, and now there's several Samuels through no fault of his own, and in fact quite his willingness to help others. So Vusala says approved Gavi applications are available for public at the Gavi website as well as CMYPs. We know, yeah, so then Alex adds, the issue with budgeted microplan is the issue of shared costs. Many districts find it hard to cost those and therefore submit past estimations, which usually end up to be too low. Suleiman, it looks like you've disconnected from the audio. If one or more, if a participant could send him a chat message to explain that he needs to reconnect. And then Dr. Khalid, house-based surveys like Mix and Nix will equally help. Aliu would love to present but cannot use the audio. Samuel is connected from his mobile. Hope this account is recorded. Yes, it is. So he's in Mogadishu. Pascal says my internet connection is not helping me at all. Calvin says facing some network challenges. Tsigai Gute, I'm traveling for fieldwork and followed the discussion session. The network is very poor to present. Thank you. All right. So do we have a volunteer who has a working connection? I've given you the list of names of folks we know have completed all 3 of their reviews already. So you're the ideal candidates to be sharing here. And I see Paul. Okay. This, I believe, Doctor, this is not the first time you are presenting, but so welcome once again. And yeah, are you able to hear us and speak to us? Yes, Paul, go ahead, please.
All right, so thank you very much. I would like to present. Can you share mine, please?
Yes, I've just made you the presenter. You now need to confirm and improve that you want to share, that you're ready to share your screen.
Yes, I want to share my screen.
Yes, so you should see a prompt on your screen. We're waiting to view your screen. You just need to approve.
Through your screen, all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have I done that?
We're still waiting to view your screen. No, we're still waiting to view your screen. So there should be in the GoTo training control panel under screen sharing, you should have an option that says, basically you have to push a button in order to share your screen. Yeah, there we go. Okay, great. Yeah. So.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Starting the.
Yes.
Whoops,
so I am.
Sorry. Dr. Paul, we just lost you. You unshared your screen. Let me go through the process again. Maybe that, yes, I'll make myself presenter, and then I will make you the presenter again. And yeah.
Is it on? Is it on?
So now, no, now we're waiting to view your screen again. You need to approve or, confirm in the same way that you did
so
before.
My screen.
Yes, now we can see it. So please do not press anything else. I'm starting the timer now. Go ahead, please.
All right. So I am reviewing the work on Nigeria improving coverage for new vaccines by encouraging uptake in all communities. So under justification, I've gone to review the work. I think the general format of the work is in accordance with what is required. However, they should pay some attention to the presentation format, including spell checking of the work. Under the justification for the transformative investment, the justification of the choice of the investment is good. However, be specific on some of the statements and references made in the justification paragraphs, e.g., identify the new antigen that has been introduced in the EPI program. It talks about a new antigen that has been introduced, but we don't know what antigen that is. Under the prioritization of the strategies, I gave a 1 out of 4. Even though key strategies have been identified, it will be good to give reasons why they have been prioritized among the many strategies that are implemented for the achievement of the objectives under the transformative investment. Under the activity planning, I gave a 1 also. Please state activity statements as doable actions rather than as objectives. One of the activities that he has talked about is improve access to services. Is stated as an objective than an activity, because we really want to talk about what is to be done rather than what we hope to be done. Under the monitoring and evaluation also, I am proposing that he explains how the activities will be monitored and indicate the monitoring indicators. Similarly, explain how the project will be evaluated to show the impact of the activities, because once that is done, that's what we expect to be done. Under annotations, I will just, as an example, I will give of the things. Watch out for the spelling for that one. Under improve access to services, I think this was not stated as an activity rather than a wish for how they could do it. The activities should be stated as doable actions. Under monitoring and evaluation, I have said, please explain how the monitoring activities should be done, and in terms of the annotations, and so that the activity statements are written as doable actions. On the whole, it's good. The format is good. The only thing the writer needs to pay attention to some of those statements in a way that people will understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul Senge, for this very concise presentation. Let me stop the timer. Are there questions or comments? Right, Alexandra says that she had trouble, that your audio was breaking up, unfortunately, but there are some comments from fellow participants. From Calvin, thinks it was right to the point. Alexandra clarifies with respect to this earlier issue of Gavi documents and their availability. The specific country material is submitted to support the application for Gavi support, and these are not made publicly available. In addition, independent reviewers engaged by Gavi to review the applications often request more information, and this is not publicly available either. All right. Are there specific comments or feedback, suggestions for Paul on his, with respect to his peer review? And could we try then a Paul? Could you select one of the criteria from your feedback? and maybe the one that was most challenging. If you could go back to feedback reviews. So in the right-hand column where it says feedback, if you click on reviews right next to annotations.
Yes, I done that.
Yeah, okay. And then if you could pick the most challenging criterion where you really hesitated, you know, with a rating or how to formulate feedback, maybe we can look at that one. We have, yes.
Yes, I will go to prioritization of the strategies.
All right. And what was okay, so you gave a rating of, okay, 1 of 4. And here on screen we can see the three points on prioritization. So what I would like to ask participants to do is to type the rating that you would have given. So go ahead, type a 0 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. So I, for one, would be a little bit more generous. Just yes, and I'm happy to explain why. But okay, Samuel also gives a 2. Yeah. So there are 50 of us here, so we should see 50 ratings come up, or actually 48. And go ahead, Samuel, also a 2, Raghavendra a 2, Pragatha a 2, Aliu would give a 3, Samuel a 2, Calvin a 2. Okay, so all of them are higher, not quite as harsh as you were, Doctor. Mukesh a 2, Wajid a 2, Jenny a 3, Helen a 2. Okay, let's hear from Jenny. Jenny, together with Aliu, you've given a 3 where Paul has given a 1. So it'd be interesting to hear from one or both of you how you would explain that this requires only minor improvements to the prioritization. Are you able to unmute yourself? We'd love to hear from you. All right, let's go to Aliu. So Aliu, you've also given a 3, and I see a couple of more. We'd like to hear from people we haven't heard from yet. Aliu, go ahead. Okay, it seems like Aliu is not able to speak to us either. So let's see. And everyone else gave 2s. Yes, Jenny. Okay, we can hear you. Yes. So you typed a 3. Can you explain?
Yes. So I typed a 3, and I think the creator of this project has tried to provide reason, at least why these strategies were prioritized. It might not have been as extensive as maybe the reviewer thought it should be, but I think he has given some reasons behind prioritizing each of the strategy. So I wouldn't give a 1, but I would give a 3, and then ask him to maybe strengthen it a little more or try to flesh it out a little more.
Okay, great. Thank you for that explanation. And Aliu, the only improvement he sees would be to back up the prioritized strategies with data or experience. Yes, and there are many positive comments, Paul, about your review. So Khalid says, good review. Nigeria declared routine immunization public health emergency. There's need for restructuring of RI system beyond new vaccine utilization. Kindly focus on the future vaccine introduction. So that would be his advice. So very interesting. And when you receive your peer reviews on Saturday, you will see that your reviewers may disagree, may have that one person may give you a 1 and another a 3. And what matters is to consider the explanations they provide, which will give you, and then you have to think about them and what they mean to you and how you are going to interpret them and take them into consideration or not. That is also your prerogative. When revising your work next week, where we expect to see substantive changes using the inputs that you receive. So if you had different explanations from Paul and Jani, if you were the author of this work and you see one person has given you a 1 and the other a 3, you're encouraged to consider both, make sense of what they're trying to tell you, and then decide how to act on the advice that you have received. That is the important part. Again, some people are much harsher in terms of the ratings, and some others may seem to be more lenient. What actually matters is the quality of the explanation. And again, when you receive your reviews, you will have under each rating and explanation, you will have a comment box whereby you can actually share your thoughts with your reviewer, ask for additional information, request advice, and continue the dialogue beyond the stage of a structured peer review. So we now have 5 minutes left. Let me go to Alexandra. Any thoughts and sort of maybe general advice or insights, having now listened to these peer review presentations?
I have to say that I'm truly impressed with the way our participants are doing. I would just like them to keep up the good work. Of course, we are all entitled to different opinions, and that's the beauty of it. So indeed, keep up the good work, and that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Alexandra. All right. So I want to end this session again with a reminder of the deadline and really what is happening next with week 6. So if there are any outstanding comments, questions that people would like to share, I do see Calvin Tonga's comment on the rating of prioritization of strategies. So that criterion in the rubric has 2 aspects. The first was completed, but the author's explanations were not developed enough, and they were not also backed with evidence. So Calvin, I believe you gave a 2, so slightly higher. And again, what matters is the thinking that goes into making that decision, what should the rating be, and then explaining that thinking, figuring out sort of actionable ways in which you can actually use that rating in that thinking process. Yes, so a comment also on the Gavi, on the availability of Gavi information. It's always good, and we encourage you to share resources with each other. So at the Gavi Alliance website under Country Hub, you can click on country name. When on the right side, documents, and you have a list of all the proof of applications for a country as well as supporting documents as CMYP. Please have a look. So that's great, and Rizwana says good to comment. So that's always useful, and we encourage you to use the shares. If someone would like to point specific links in the shares in the community, that would be much appreciated. So the deadline has been extended. You do have until Sunday. We know that many of you have already completed all 3 of your reviews. Others are well on your way. So we encourage you, because reviews are the earlier the reviews are released, the more time the authors that you reviewed will have to take into consideration your inputs and get about making that substantive revision, improvement to their draft project to put together something that they can be proud of to be submitted by the end of next week, which will be the final week of the course. So next week's session will be very special. We'll have for the first time people presenting their projects, explaining what they're doing with the peer review feedback. So that's what we'll be asking presenters to do. And then, of course, your job will be, the most important part of the course will be to actually finish those projects. And we will be having subsequently a commencement event, and we'll be sharing the invitation to that event, and we'll be encouraging you to share the invitation. We have 200 seats in the go-to training session, and we'll be encouraging you to invite your colleagues, to invite people in your network, but also if you wish to show the work that you are doing and to share that with members of your family, with relatives, with friends, just like a physical world commencement. This is only a 6-week course, but you've put a lot of work and energy into it, so we'll be sharing that invitation and encouraging you to share it widely. During commencement, we will be, of course, presenting these certificates to the successful completers of the course, but we will also be inviting participants to present their projects to the participants of the commencement, which will be both the participants in the course, but also other people interested in this work. We also want to encourage people who have not made it this time around, who have not been successful in completing their draft project, to attend the commencement event. We'll be sharing the full details on that next week in the final week 6 discussion group. So once again, thank you all. Thank you to the presenters, to the reviewers, to the commenters on the reviewers. Thank you to Alexandra, and look forward to seeing the community come alive again next week. We'll be sharing some specific, we'll be sharing additional subject matter experts videos, and very pleased to see the feedback. You'll also be receiving the feedback questionnaire for weeks 4 and 5. And we're very interested in your experience of peer review. So Samuel says, thank you, Sadki, Alexandra, wonderful course and indeed a good way of learning. Jenny says, thanks everyone. Radivoj Filipov, thank you all. These meetings are priceless. Calvin Tonga says, thank you for this very interesting session. Helen says, thanks everyone. Bashir, thank you the team. Mohammed, thank you to the organizers. Aliu, thank you, Reda, and the entire team, learning a lot. Thanks everyone. From Dr. Khalid, Savatri, thank you all presenters for your feedbacks and all course team. Great. So Mukesh Prajapati, excellent learning opportunity. And I can tell you that, I think it's okay to share this. Jill Milbal, who is the person responsible for this course, is traveling this week and was not therefore able to attend. And I can tell you that she's missing this discussion group and was very, has been very much finding these to be extremely productive and interesting. So, and that's to the credit of you as participants. Thank you very much. I'm now unmuting everyone so we can hear office spaces from all around the world. So we can say goodbye to each other. Take care, and look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Helen from Cameroon.
Hello.
Thank you so much for this session, Reda.
Hello, everyone.
Innocently, Rose from Pakistan.
Innocently believing tomorrow, although is just normally catching up a few things here.